Hi, seventh grade. Welcome back. Today is Thursday. Tomorrow you'll be taking a quiz. The first half of the class, you're going to be taking notes. In the second parts, I will release the quiz to students that are done with the notes and students that have been um, doing the work. Here's an example. This is Jessica's of the notes you took on Wednesday. Thing that I noticed is that some students are not including the tagged. Um, the title was Popcorn Aztec Ancient Snack, authors NPR, nonfiction, 2014. Okay. Um, Also, you can do more than eight. You should probably be doing more than eight, but eight is the bare minimum of the notes. You should be using the notes when you take the quiz or when you take the exit ticket on Friday. It'll be a quiz. Um, okay. Something that I noticed is that some students are saying the main idea is Aztec popcorn. That's not the main idea. The main idea um, how popcorn has been was an important aspect of Aztec society. How popcorn pops. Those are the main ideas. Okay. The purpose is to educate or to inform the reader about the history of popcorn, more importantly, with in relation to the Aztecs. And then students are still submitting work that is incomplete. This is fine. The Aztecs like popcorn, and then we need the vocabulary as well. You don't have to define the vocabulary if you don't want to. You don't have to answer your questions if you don't want to, but it'll be great if you did. Okay, so there's a number of students that are not doing the work. So if you're on this list, chances are you're not going to be allowed to take the quiz on Friday because you have not been practicing the skills. So this is UCSC, and then we have UC David, UCS, doing it or UCLA. I'm not trying to call anyone out, but a number of students are getting used to just not doing any of the work, and that's just not acceptable to me or to any of your teachers. A lot of these are repeats of students. So if I go to Monday's work, you'll see that it's the same thing, and Tuesday's work, you'll see that it's the same thing. And this is not okay. And this is not necessarily true for everyone. Some of these students are in here that are going to do the work. I know Kevin's going to do the work, so good job, Kevin. But other students just are not doing the work on time or not at all, and that's just that's really, I just find it disrespectful because if you are having an issue, you should be contacting me and telling me what the issue is, not just not doing the work. For some students, I literally haven't seen any work in weeks. Um, so that's upsetting. And for UC Davis, and some classes have more kids than others. Okay, so just so you know, I'm well aware of who's not doing the work and who is. The majority of students are doing an amazing job. So if you're on here, good job. Um, it's I'm impressed. I know that distance learning is difficult, but we need to do the best we can with it. So if you did the job here, good job. There's a whole bunch of you. Um, let me see. We're gonna go over the exit tickets. I did notice that a number of students are not taking the exit tickets, and that's also an issue because you don't know what kind of questions you're going to get on Friday. Okay. Let's go over the exit ticket for UCSC. So if you so 29 students took it in UCSC, UCLA was 27, and UC Davis was 31. So UC Davis won this battle. The average for UC Davis was 4.58, so like an S plus. For UCSC, for UCLA was 493, so 458, 493 for UCLA, but less students took it, and 438 for UCSC. These students will get an M plus and so forth. Okay, let's go over these questions. How old was the popcorn that the archaeologists discovered? It said in the presentation 4,000 years old. Somebody said 10 years. What is the best meaning of the word cultivate? Cultivate means like growing crops. to grow crops, so plant and grow. And in order to get this, you have to use context clues. Okay. You don't create corn. You don't exaggerate corn. You don't partition corn. You cultivate it. You grow it. What is the main idea of the audio? The story, the audio story explores the ancient origins of popcorn, describe how the ancient Aztecs used it, and explains the science behind the popcorn actually pops like a pressure cooker. What can you infer from these sentences in the story? The Aztec language even had a word for the sound of the kernel popping. So this means that it must have been important, right? Must have been important. What is the purpose of the speaker telling us the kernel acts as a pressure cooker? To explain how the kernel becomes fluffy popcorn, how it explodes, like the science behind it. Which of the following supports the correct answer? So if you miss this question, you're probably gonna miss this one. Okay, so this one talks about how the popcorn explodes, the science behind it, and then this one actually gives you the evidence, right? How it it pops outward. Okay. Um, so again, here in this class, there's about 5 students that didn't take it. In this class, there's about another 5. In this class, there's about 3 students. Um, so that's not very good. Today's presentation is going to be on Venice. Venice is a city in Europe. So Venice, and the time period is 571. So if I look at a map, Venice is located in southern Europe. It's at the very top of Italy. It's right here. So that's Venice. This is a zoomed in. And this, so I just want to make it sure. Venice is located up here. So the audio is going to talk about Venice in the 1500s. In the 1500s. So after the Middle Ages, this is going to be one of our next units. We'll talk about the Renaissance, and Venice becomes a very, very important city. And the audio mainly talks about the interaction between people in Venice, in Europe, and also and also the Muslims. Remember, the Muslims were people that developed this religion of Islam. Okay, I'm gonna play the presentation. You are still taking notes. On Friday, you'll get a presentation at 8, and then during the second half of your class, you're gonna be given the quiz. If you don't do your notes, you will not be given the quiz. Here's a presentation.
The Italian city of Venice was once a maritime empire. For 1,000 years, this city state traded and maintained cultural links with the Islamic world. A new exhibit in Venice illustrates the mutual influence on ideas, customs, and culture that flourished in the East West relationship. As NPR's Sylvia Poggioli reports, some people see a lesson for contemporary relations between the West and the Muslim world.
For many centuries, Venice, the lagoon city, was the liquid frontier between Europe and the Islamic world. The building that perhaps best exemplifies Eastern influences is the Doge's Palace, site of the exhibition Venice and Islam.
Look there.
Architect Marino Follin points to the crenellated decoration that runs along the top of the Doge's Palace.
You see, there is some decoration, which is minaretos,
Little minarets.
Yes.
Other Islamic examples are the latticed grills and pointed arches of many Venetian buildings. Economic exchanges between Venice and Arabs, Mamelukes, Persians, and Turks were intense, particularly from the 13th through the 15th century. Cultural cross-fertilization was constant. Looking at the exhibit, it's sometimes hard to say whether a fabric, a glass object, or a silver piece had been made in Venice in Islamic style or in an Islamic country for the Venetian market. Venice sent its best painters to Istanbul to paint portraits of the sultans, while it was the Arabs who taught the Venetians the art of glassmaking, still today the city's quintessential art form. Curator Stefano Carboni describes a 15th century painting depicting a baptism by St. Mark, where numerous men wearing large turbans mingle with Venetians.
And so we have a beautiful representation of a Renaissance interior that looks very much Venetian, which is populated by Ottomans and Mamluks, because that's what Venetians knew was contemporary.
He says the turban figures do not project a sense of tension or conflict.
Actually, they are integrated in these interiors. It's a kind of natural scene.
One major piece is the so-called Throne of St. Peter, actually a 10th or 11th century stone slab inscribed with Quranic verses. A surprising item is a copy of the first printed edition of the Quran, produced not from a Muslim but from a Venetian printing press. And there's a carpet with Jewish symbols belonging to a local synagogue made by Arab craftsmen in Cairo in the 16th century. Over the centuries, Venice's determination to trade with Muslims, infidels for the Vatican, earned the entire city's excommunication. Nevertheless, Venetian artists had few qualms about blending Islamic styles with Christian themes. One striking example is a 14th century painting of a Madonna and Child, in which her robe is a rich golden brocade embroidered with Islamic decorations. Venice was also a crossroads through which the science, medicine, and philosophy of the Middle East arrived in Europe. One Venetian woman, Giuseppina Lino, came to the exhibit to seek her city's cosmopolitan past.
Venezia ha sempre intrattenuto rapporti. In order to maintain its supremacy in trade, Venice focused on diplomacy. It was the only European power to maintain permanent representatives in the cities of the Muslim world.
Young Venetian noblemen were often sent to the east to learn Arabic, Persian, and Turkish, and some doges were born and grew up in the Middle East. Meanwhile, Muslim merchants set up lodgings and warehouses in Venice. One of the most famous, the Fondaco of the Turks, still stands on the Grand Canal. Military conflicts with the Muslim world did occur over the centuries, and Venetians even took part in some crusades. But the belligerent parties never cut off diplomatic contacts. And even after defeating the Turks in the Battle of Lepanto in 1571, Venice the Pragmatic continued to trade with the Ottomans. Mayor Massimo Cacciari says Venice never tried to impose its values, its religious beliefs, or social system on the Muslim world.
Venice had a strong sense of its identity, but at the same time it recognized the identity and values of other cultures, even when it was in conflict with them. This exhibit shows us that today, either we all learn how to live side by side, each with our own distinct identities, or we'll be in permanent conflict.
The exhibit lasts until November 25th. Silvio Poggioli, NPR News.
So your goal is to get at least 4 out of 6, because a 4 will be an S plus, a 3 will be an S. So if you got anything below a 4, take your time, listen to this audio again, think of why Venice is important, the impact of Venice, think of time. This is a really important presentation because you're going to learn about Venice later in the year. Yeah, email me if you have any questions. I'll see you guys later.